Marwan, let's just take stock of where we are right now. I mean, you hear the positivity coming out of the U.S., yet you hear Netanyahu saying this war will go on until we achieve victory, even if it takes more time, and Hamas saying we haven't been informed of anything yet. What do you think is going on?
Look, tactically, in the past several weeks, 2-3 months, in fact, the Biden administration has been more eager than before to reach a ceasefire, even if a permanent ceasefire. And that's why it came out with that three-phase plan so that Netanyahu government can buy into it, in a sense that there will be a temporary, then perhaps a permanent ceasefire. Netanyahu is not exactly biting, and he, as we heard him today, continues to insist that there are red lines and that the war will continue and it will achieve its objectives. Hamas disagrees because Netanyahu's objective is to destroy Hamas. Hamas does not want to be destroyed. So you can, figure out exactly why they're not exactly in agreement. But what is seen to be going on is there something behind the scenes between the Egyptians, the Americans, and the Israelis. That's where the security arrangement for the day after are happening. That's where the Americans are trying to figure out who is going to be responsible for the security in Gaza, with whose help. This is the kind of role that the Egyptians play in. And you could guess that maybe there is some movement on that Egyptian-Israeli American front. There could also be some progress on the Qatari-American-Israeli front about the captives, who's out, who's in, who's going to be released, the names of the Palestinian prisoners with the long sentences, and so on and so forth. These are my educated guesses, judging from the various leaks, but who knows?
Marwan, look, you say that over the past few months, the Biden administration has been more eager. Why do you think that is? What's changed for the Biden administration? Is it simply domestic politics at play here?
By the way, it's a very important question, and I think we need probably going to be discussing for the days to come. But let me just say there are at least three major factors. One, America sees the battlefield better than Israel. It has a kind of a more 35,000 feet view of the Gaza, Lebanon, and the region. And it judged already by late March, early April, that the war must wind down. And this whole idea of attacking Rafah and continuing with the war, that Israel is simply going to really get stuck in Gaza, and this is not the time. It's the time to pull out, because the war objectives, and as far as destroying Gaza is concerned anyway, that's happened. And then there's the idea that Biden is now entering a crucial period of his election, and the time for relaxing the war, the time for talking about peace and ceasefires and American management of Pax Americana in the Middle East is also very important. And third and last, and that's to the credit of Hamas, is that I think Israel understood, at least its military understood, that you simply cannot defeat Hamas, as we've been saying from the very beginning, and our Israelis came to recognize, as well as the Americans, that after 9 months of war, Hamas continues to resist. And not only Hamas, the idea, but in fact, Hamas, the organization. You cannot just destroy, you cannot just finish off the way Netanyahu wanted to.
Okay, so do you anticipate pressure then being put on Netanyahu by the American president or by the likes of Bill Burns and Brett McGurk, who are involved in these negotiations? I mean, because Netanyahu, as we've been saying, has pretty much flat out said just a short while ago that the war will go on until we achieve victory. And we know that he hasn't achieved his victory yet.
Yes, so Biden is in a bind in terms of using enough leverage on Netanyahu to force him into a ceasefire, because that will have a political price. And Biden doesn't have much of a political capital. He's down in the polls. As you know, his reputation is being really in the mud because of his poor performances and so on and so forth. So he doesn't have much of a political capital in Washington. He's afraid of the Israel lobby, the powerful Israel lobby, and hence he's not using sufficient leverage. But behind the scene, my guess is that, especially through the Europeans, but more importantly through the Israel military, That's where America is exercising its influence on the government, because the strongest relationship with Israel is with the Israel military. The best relation, the deepest relation, the longest relationship is with the Israeli military. And I think America is using that already. And that's why we hear more and more nuanced voices from the generals, from the military spokesperson, that we need to wind down this war, that we could win it in a different ways, but that we need a ceasefire, we need to release the captives. This new tone and stance from the Israeli military, I think, comes in part because of American pressure.
Okay, Marwan, thank you so much. Marwan Bishara joining us from Paris.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.